Oh, hello. I've spent 6.5 years passionately arguing for consumer rights in Magic the Gathering. My platform was built on questioning, on criticizing, both positive and negative, and on advocating first and foremost for you, the player and customer of this great game. I do not feel it is unfair to say that over this past 6.5 years, I have oftentimes been one of the loudest voices in this area. And yet I realized recently that I'm actually rather hesitant to talk about myself and my beliefs. I guess part of me feels that looking over at half a decade's work, those beliefs should be evident to you, the viewers. But also, and I'm just being honest here, it's always a little hard to talk about myself. The personal video, the opinion videos, I always hate these, and I'm even fearful of making them sometimes. But I'm going to take a moment here and present what I believe in clear, no uncertain terms, because it's really the lifeblood of this channel and of myself. This is the Tolarian Community College manifesto, as it were. First and foremost, and above everything else, above any personal desires and passionate pleas on individual issues, I believe Magic the Gathering is a game and should be reasonably accessible for everyone to play. This, more than anything, informs the rest of my beliefs about the game. This, more than anything, informs my criticisms, both positive and negative. There needs to be reasonable access to play Magic the Gathering. And yes, one of the biggest obstacles, if not the biggest obstacle, to reasonable access is cost. Now, I don't feel this just includes the cost of individual cards, which I'll touch on in a moment, but also just the cost of buying Magic the Gathering products. This is why I was adamantly against things such as the raising of the price on Ultimate Masters and Modern Horizons, especially when the production cost for those booster packs was in no way proportional to that increase. I am against the growing cost of Commander precons, which, once a great deal for the consumer, are becoming more and more expensive every year without any increase in the value of their contents. I want kids to be able to play this game, broke college students, adults on a budget. I am in favor of the key point of access being the booster pack, the $4 booster pack, and I want that product to contain cards that let me actually access and play the game. Now, I don't believe everything needs to be 100% equal access, and I acknowledge that there are going to be ways of playing this game that are simply prohibitively expensive for most players, namely formats like Vintage and Legacy, and that's okay. But I do feel that, within reason, there should be a road of access to the rest of the game. And yes, that includes formats such as Modern and Pioneer and Commander. Now, I don't mind if there are individual decks within those formats that are extremely expensive, but I feel that there should always be reasonable options to enter the format with competitive decks that are accessible, and if I were Wizards of the Coast serving as caretaker to these formats, especially formats like Modern, I would make access a priority, looking perhaps to design cards in such a way as to have more than just mono red be the affordable option. And when certain critical cards become prohibitively expensive, offer meaningful reprints of them. Which, of course, brings me to the next thing that I believe in. Reprints are vital to access. This has, probably since day one, been my channel's rallying cry. In fact, the very first time I ever met Mark Rosewater, he referenced awareness that my channel was always going on about reprints. Well, I believe reprints are vital to providing access to Magic the Gathering, and so I constantly advocate for them because my end goal is I want people to be able to sit down and play Magic the Gathering. Not just some people, everybody. Now, I in no way want this to just be a living card game where everyone is sold a box with play sets of every card, and I do believe in the value of this being a collectible card game. But when cards that are essential or, if we're being reasonable, near essential for effective and proper gameplay are made artificially scarce and thus artificially expensive, I recoil and I advocate for their reprinting. Reprinting cards also allows for players who are not playing during older sets to have access to the best cards from those sets, be it access to own or access to just play with or against. To play. Magic is a game. It is meant to be played, and it is my belief that reprinting key cards is vital to that process. And yet, I also want to say that one of my strong beliefs is that cards should still have value. I actually like there being expensive cards, be they cards slightly more expensive than the booster pack you have opened, or cards that just cost a lot of money. But to me, there's a huge difference between a fetch land being $100 and a card such as Tarmogoyf once being $100. Tarmogoyf is only really played in one deck in one format, Modern Jund. But that $100 fetch land is needed for, well, almost every deck in a multitude of formats. Yet Tarmogoyf was reprinted in 4 Masters sets, while only 5 of the 10 fetch lands were reprinted in only 1 Masters set. My belief is that maybe Goyf should have been only reprinted in 1 to 2 of those master sets, and that 5 of the 10 fetch lands should have been in each and every master set, alternating between the color pairs with each set. In this hypothetical, I'd actually have been okay with Goyf staying very expensive, maybe never really breaking below $100 or $80 each. But also, in this hypothetical, it would have meant that the cost of fetch lands would have gone down dramatically. Our access to them increased significantly. You see, believing in reprints, believing in player access, and believing that cards should have value is not a contradictory concept. It's not either or. With proper oversight and management, we can have all of these things. And along those lines, I believe that cards should have a use beyond draft. This should not be a disposable card game. Thus, we need a diversity of formats to play in, especially non-rotating formats. The philosophy has long been that only standard and draft sells packs, and that non-rotating formats such as modern simply make no money and thus have no benefit to the game. But I strongly disagree. I believe we need a place to play with our cards. It's a collectible card game. I want to collect and maintain and continue to play with my cards long after the draft has ended, and yes, long after they have rotated out of standard. But there's no one format where every card has a home, nor even one format that every player enjoys. I believe strongly, therefore, in that diversity of formats, playstyles, all aspects of the game. It's vital to the overall ecosystem. Modern is vital to standard because cards need a place to be played when they rotate out of standard. And it's good business, too, because even if a format like Modern doesn't sell those $4 booster packs, which it would if those booster packs had cards in them that were relevant to the Modern format, but never mind that. Even if it doesn't directly play a part in that process, having that diversity of other formats keeps players playing the game. This, too, is why formats like Modern have value, why even Pauper has value. When someone gets sick of Standard, if there's nowhere else for them to go, then where they go is away. You lose players, you lose customers. But with a diversity of other formats, maybe that Standard player takes up Modern, or Canadian Highlander, or even Pauper. Sure, they're not buying standard packs, but they are still a part of the game, still keeping the overall ecosystem going. And maybe if they're still there at that local game store playing in the weekly Pauper events, then they are likely to pick up a pre-release kit for the new set and maybe return to standard and draft one day. I want to feel that the cards I crack have value beyond standard. I want confidence that there will be other ways and places to play with them. And along those lines, I want to know that I'll always have somewhere to play Magic the Gathering at. So while Wizards of the Coast is obsessed with the idea of an invisible customer base that plays formatless Magic on their kitchen tables, the local game store is not just important to Magic's success, but should be thought of as a vital component of the game. It is my firm belief that a gathering place to play Magic is a key part of the game. This goes beyond just having a specialty shop to purchase products in. Magic is so obsessed with games like Hearthstone that it forgets what it does better than anyone else: that in-person gameplay, the group dynamic, the one-on-one, the gathering. This is as much a part of Magic as mana and spells, and it is at the local game store where this happens. Magic is a complex game where oftentimes social interaction is a part of learning how to play. Magic is a game that has a lot of elements which rely on word of mouth. It is far from a successful advertiser, after all, and having gathering places where information is passed along is also critical. And I just believe very strongly that the LGS is not just where the game is sold and played, but it's a feature of the game. Magic, as a digital-only game, makes it one of millions. Magic as a game where you play with cards and friends in person makes it one of a kind. The game store fosters that one-of-a-kind experience. A table is required for Magic the Gathering, and it is my belief that one of the most critical errors of Wizards of the Coast seems to be their current failure to understand this. Having the local game store is the starting point to play in Magic events. Compete with your decks against one another. Get matches, get games. It's part of the game. And yes, though not everyone comes at this the same way, competition is still a large part of Magic the Gathering, which is why Magic needs a competitive circuit and proper support of that circuit. Now, I am not a pro player, nor will I ever be one, and yet I strongly recognize and believe in the vital role that having and supporting a pro circuit has for this game. The idea that anyone can show up at that local game store for a PTQ, compete, and based on that wonderful combination of skill and luck that is Magic the Gathering, begin the path to the Players' Tour is a driving force for so much of this game. It fuels player interest and engagement, creates content, drives attendance and sales, and quite frankly is a key factor distinguishing Magic from just a sometimes take-off-the-shelf game. We may not all be aspiring competitive players, but having that path, having that system for us to experience as participant or just spectator is a vital part of the overall ecosystem of this game, just as having casual formats like Commander is as well. It's not one or the other. It's all. It's everything. Magic is a game for everyone. I hate when I see Magic players argue about who and how the game should be. We are not in competition with one another for game space. Whether you draft or play Pauper, play CEDH or Casual Commander, it's about each person having fun and enjoyment with this game. Magic is a game. It is meant to be played. And if you are playing it and you are having fun, then you are doing it right. A terrible mistake that I believe Wizards of the Coast has done is that they want to dictate to us sometimes how they'd prefer we play Magic versus listening to us about how we want to play Magic and then monetizing access accordingly. So yeah, that's what Tolarian Community College believes in. That's what I believe in. Magic is a game. It is meant to be played. Access, reprint, value, diversity, local game stores, competition, everyone. And finally, I believe Wizards of the Coast needs us more than we need them. Not just us, the content creators, although that is something I do believe. We drive the views far more than they do or can. Our videos, our podcasts, our articles, our streams, our content, big and small, is a huge driving force of this game, and it's something they cannot replicate without us. But I also mean the more collective we. We, the players, are the ones with the power, and it's why I feel criticism is so vital for a channel such as this, because it's our game too, and we can help shape the way it is played and even made. If Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to offer meaningful reprints of lands, I do strongly believe, we can make them change their minds. The power of the content creator and the power of the consumer. Look at how far we've come already. So thank you for supporting me and what I believe in all these years. If you are able to go further and help support me on Patreon, know that it is the main thing that helps keep this channel going, helps to pay for expenses such as office rent, camera, sound, and lighting equipment, and so much more. This month, the patron card is Brian Stoutarm, one of my favorite old school commanders from way back in the before times. In many ways, Brian Stoutarm represents what I believe commanders should be, but further explanation on that is a whole other video. Nonetheless, if you become a new patron during the month of April and select to support at the signed card level, I'll send you a signed copy of Brian Stoutarm as my way of saying thanks. And to everyone, regardless of whether you can support me on Patreon or not, know that I am so grateful for you, sticking with me over the years, continuing to watch, and in so doing, adding your number, your presence, your voice to these beliefs that I have, and that have shaped my reviews, my commentary, myself. It's not the Tolarian professor that gives this channel its strength. It's the Tolarian community. That's you. Thank you. Oh, hang on. I'm getting a notification here. There's yet another Masters set this year. We're having triple Masters sets. This is called New Player Masters. It's meant to be a Masters set that is new player friendly.
So what does that entail?
It says here it will be reprints of commons and uncommons from the last 2 years. It's $19.99 a pack.
Wait, so at least we get like Evolving Wilds in that set?
No, it says no fetch land reprint. That's just boilerplate at this point. They don't want any confusion that maybe they've reprinted the most in-demand reprint in the reprint premium set.
Better to be safe than sorry, yeah, definitely.